In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use the fabulous new collection Wild Animals Outback all around Australia and Australian wild animals from FindIt Media to make this beautiful card with the acetate front and the frame and the little scene inside it. So to start with, we're going to make the background. And to make the background, I'm going to use some watercolour card, and I've cut this down already. This is actually cut to 5.5 inches square. So I'm just putting it in a spray bottle because I'm going to use the pigment sprays from iZink. The pigment sprays are a fantastic product. You're normally used to having dye sprays or ink sprays. The pigment sprays give you that beautiful sort of chalky intensity of colour you get from a pigment colour, but in a spray bottle. And the fantastic thing is about these, they work on all surfaces. So these are actually working on fabric as well. And on fabric, they're fully machine washable, but it just works so well on watercolour card. So I'm just going to take, this one I'm using first of all is the orangey colour. Now it does have an unusual name in French, they seem to give them all, but this is in the set, this is the orangey. And I'm just going to give that a spray across the top to get a little bit of orange in that corner. I'm then going to go with the yellow, and I'm going to mix the yellow in. You see, because they're pigment, they run. So they run beautifully, but you get that intensity of colour that you'd want from a sort of sunset scene. So I'm going to put a little bit of sort of greenery on the bottom. So this time I'm using the absinthe and I'm splashing that on. And you want to be quite, you want to let it get everywhere. You want to let the colours run. And I'm going to finish off with a little bit of the yellow just to let it merge together. So what I'm going to do is just dry that paste off. You can leave it to naturally dry or you can heat dry it. So I'm going to dry that off for a couple of minutes and we'll come back and do the next stage. So as you can see, that's dried off now and it gives you this beautiful background, sort of a chalky finish. It's very reminiscent of what you get with an oxide. And it's a lot easier to do. I find the blending of that quite difficult. So I'm going to take this out of my sort of glue stroke spray box. You can see here we've got that beautiful sort of sky and the green at the bottom, which to me just makes the most really nice background piece. So what I'm going to do, I've cut from the collection already some of the pieces in the collection. So I've got one of the kangaroos, two of the wombats and one of the little sort of cave type piece. And all I'm going to do is to glue those down onto the background. So I'm going to put the little cave bit on first. I'm using the Craft Artist glue glaze, as this is great for sticking down sort of intricate die cuts very quickly. It's a quick grab glue and won't affect any background or anything like that. So we're going to have, we'll have a little wombat there, and then we'll have a little wombat there coming into the edge of the frame. And then I've also got here the kangaroo. So this is one of the set of 3 kangaroos that you get. They've got really cute sort of cheeky faces. So I'm just going to add a little bit of foam tape on this to give this a little bit of dimension. So we'll take the protective off that and we'll add this one on. So get it into the right place. There we go. I think we'll have him just on there, so he's in the foreground. So that's our background done. And obviously I'm going to frame this. So I've already cut the frame from the set, but it's all a little bit on top of each other. So the way I want to do it is to be quite clever with the card. So here I've got a card blank that's cut to 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. You could easily use a 6 by 6 pre-done card blank. And all I'm going to do is place the frame in the middle on the front panel. I've done this as a top fold card so that the top fold actually works to actually show you the scene better. So we're just going to tape that down and I'm going to run that through and die cut that. So we'll place it on and we'll give that a cut. So we've cut this piece through our die cutting machine and you can see the frame comes out, and we can use this frame for another project. You'll see some of the samples I've used these frames on. So we've got beautiful frame there, but what we're actually wanting this time is the card blank and the aperture. So I'm just going to clear this out of the way. And what we can see, if I give this another fold and just burnish that fold with my bone folder, we've got that, and the frame will fit in perfectly. So I've cut the frame again once in black, and I just think that just looks so nice. Makes a brilliant men's or kids card, this. So we want to hold that into place. So the best way to do that is to actually use a piece of acetate. So I'm just going to take a little bit of power tape and run it down. I'm not wet gluing in the acetate, as acetate takes quite a long time to dry. So you could do that if you wanted to, and you could go all the way around if you're making it at home. But for the demonstration purposes, it's just quicker just to use a little bit of power tape. You could use a wet glue, or you could use a red line tape. But I just want to affix it in. And what I've done is I've cut the piece of acetate I'm using to be 1/4 of an inch smaller, so that I don't have any seams popping out. So you can see here, we'll just pop that into place, and then we've got our perfect card front. I'm then going to put my background again into place. Now I've used watercolor cards, so at home I would be using a wet glue on this. I'll be using the craft artist glue. However, for speed in the demo, I'm just going to use a little bit of the power tape, just so that we get everything stuck straight away. So the background, as I said again, I've cut this to be 1/4 of an inch smaller. So this has been cut at 5.5, so that when the card is open, I get a beautiful frame all the way around it. So we can see there, we have that little scene showing through with the panel at the front. So simply all I'm left to do then is just make sure you've got any of your little bits out of your die cut piece. So I just go around and check and make sure. I'm simply then going to glue this in. Now I'm gluing to acetate, so I'm using a spray glue, but I would suggest, if you haven't got a spray glue, use something like the craft artist glue glaze, because that will dry very quickly and won't spread. And we're just going to pop that frame into place, and it fits exactly because we've used the die to cut it out. There we go. And there we've got our beautiful framed card with our background inside. And every time you do this, it will come out differently